Welcome back to another VFX Time-lapse. In this one, we're looking at one of the portals in the music video, except this portal actually interacts with Melody's hand and sort of grabs it with this creepy tendril light energy. This was definitely one of the most time-intensive of the VFX shots for a couple of reasons. We actually had to do a few passes of the design of this tendril energy. So what you're looking at here is the first idea I had, which was tracking each of her fingers and having this energy sort of strike each finger, or at least interact with each one. But it kind of looked a little hokey, a little weird, not threatening enough. It was kind of 2D. So I ended up ditching it, but you can kind of see the different designs that I was playing with before we settled on the one that we used. The other reason why it took so long, as you're seeing here, is the rotoscoping. Anytime you're doing any kind of masking with hands and fingers, it's always quite a long process, especially in a shot like this where there's lots of finger positions and movements. You kind of end up having to do each finger individually and then the palm and so on. And now we're kind of watching my second idea, which was actually using a particle system to generate all these tendrils. And this ended up looking a lot more threatening and kind of creepy. So I decided to kind of stick with this route. And this is actually generated with a particle system. So each of the tendrils is actually made up of hundreds and hundreds of individual particles, which is great because it's a very automated system. You kind of set a few values and each tentacle kind of moves in an interesting organic way. But the trade-off with that, of course, is I can't individually control any one tendril. So that ended up becoming a big nightmare for sinking time into messing with these parameters and trying to figure out how to make basically each layer of each tendril, making it look like it has some intention with its movement and how it's grabbing. Because otherwise, each tendril is sort of flailing out randomly, as particle systems do. And I ended up having to do some hacky kind of tricks to get these reactive motions, like the grab and the release when she pulls back. So one of the things I did was actually use something called a turbulence sphere, which you'll see at one point here. Yeah, you can kind of see there the tendrils sort of bubble outward. And that's really the only option I have with these particle systems to kind of introduce motion after the system is generated. The other thing was these mesh warps. So I actually, this is a 2D effect actually, but it basically allowed me to kind of curve the ends of each tendril to make it look like, more finger-like, kind of add that motion of grabbing once it makes contact with her hand. So here we are on the second pass for this shot. I actually took a break from it for about a week to work on other shots because I felt like I'd spent so much time on it and it was just fiddling and nonstop. That's sort of how particle systems are. You could just, tweak forever. So I took a break. We talked about the shots and sort of figure out, okay, which direction do we want to go? And we decided to keep the tendrils, but kind of add a little more texture and add a little bit more motion to when she pulls away from the tendrils. In the previous version, she kind of pulls back and the tentacles just kind of hover out in the air and don't do very much. So we thought it might look cool to have, more of like a dissolving reaction or a more violent kind of breaking that hold. I'd also gotten about 90% of the way being done with this before I noticed I didn't mask out these flowers in the foreground. So I remembered to do that last second. And I mean, if I didn't notice it while working on it, I'm not sure if anyone else would have, but I figured it was better safe than sorry. Got to match that other shot, which there is a shot before this, which is coming up in a moment. So one trick that I would use when working with these particle systems, once I was happy with the motion, I would actually render them out as footage so that I wouldn't have to re-render the particle system. I was just re-rendering that layer, and that would give me, a way to work faster. And here we're looking at all the final components kind of separated and then combined. And there's the final shot. All right, moving on to the next shot, which is actually chronologically before the shot we just watched. This is her approaching the portal. It's sort of the setup shot for, you see the tendrils like in very small form kind of emerging from the mirror. This shot actually went by pretty quickly because I didn't need to rotoscope her hand and I didn't need to do any kind of interaction with her hand. Since I had established the tendril effect in the previous shot, it didn't take very long to apply that effect to this shot. All that was left to do here was kind of, again, mask out the flowers and, remove the tape on that back wall. And here you can kind of see the separate elements and the final shot.